Steven, you ever been called a jabroni?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Yeah, my brother was in a phase. Why?
It's pretty obvious why, but what was the context of why your brother was calling you jabroni?
He had one of these weird phases where he like kept on using these words that he thought were unique. Um God, the cat's already on the table. We're 30 seconds into this thing and you're already on the table.
Cat's being a real
Unbelievable.
jabroni.
Seriously. But no, he was in a phase. He was in a phase and yeah, he was I don't know. He was a weird guy. But he was in a phase where he was just like calling things jabroni all the time. He'd just like write on a blank CD, like when you fill a blank CD with like a mixtape essentially. Like he'd just name it jabroni for no
Okay.
reason. So
I,
anyway,
I mean, it's a funny word, not to be confused with Zamboni. Those are the hardworking individuals that clean up hockey rinks.
hmm
But yeah, I haven't heard jabroni in a long time. I think it's more of an East Coast thing. And good on Travis Kelce for dropping it to talk about the Cincinnati mayor, which if he didn't, I don't think anybody in the national circuit would have known what this Cincinnati mayor had said. But now, because he called him out, everybody goes back to look at the video. It is cringeworthy. But yeah, Mayor Jabroni in Cincinnati.
hell
Did
of
you,
a hell
did
of
you
a
watch that
follow
video?
hell of a follow up by his brother. Do you
Uh,
even know what the role of a mayor is when he
exactly.
says know your role? That's such a good retort. Like, do you actually know no?
I watched that today with the Kelsey Bros. And it's going to be a Kelsey Super Bowl. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Just Your Opinion, man. Stephen Langford, Derek Papa. I brought my energy tonight for the night show because we have a lot to discuss. Not only do we have actual football to discuss, but we got a lot of, as we called it last year, fuckery going on.
hmm
And it's starting, it's building up. So let's get to it, Stephen. The games, NFC Championship, AFC Championship. I got both right. Um, at this point, we're really doing a terrible job, or at least I am, with the punishments. So at this point, we'll just figure out what we were going to do later on. But this is maybe there's something we get rid of as the podcast goes forward because I'm not really good with remembering now that we do these later shows.
I mean, I could easily do the Will Levis with coffee and mayo, but we could just
If that's
revamp,
what you want to do, and future Raiders quarterback,
maybe, or we can just like
bit of a
revamp it
steep turn
next
today.
season and just go from there. but
That's what I'm thinking because I the planning of the hot sauce stuff is not gone well for me
well,
this year.
it doesn't work when you are immune to spice.
Dude, I keep telling you, as far as yes, on the podcast, yes, I can go through it. The next day is the problem.
True. Well, the next day is not what people are paying attention to,
I
Derek.
mean, I can live stream that if you want me to.
No, that's all good. Uh, but I will say that seems that my box pretty successful, I'd
Tell
say.
you
I got
what,
a couple of responses on it.
sure you did. Um, tell you what, you break out the box for the Super Bowl if we differ on that pick. How about that?
Fair enough.
Super box.
Yep, super box, all
All
good.
right. All right, let's get to the game. NFC Championship game. First game that went down on Sunday, and it did not go as planned. Mainly because the 49ers had to revert to being kind of like an Army Navy team without attempting to throw a pass in the fourth quarter. It is fitting's not the word, but I'll use it. It's fitting considering all the quarterback issues that went on this season with the 49ers, from Trey Lance to Jimmy Garoppolo to Brock Purdy. Of course, the biggest game of the season, and on the first fumble of Brock Purdy's career, his game is cut short because of a UCL injury.
Right.
And that changed the whole game. Now, initially in the game, what happened with the fourth down play where Devontae Smith looked like he made a hell of a catch, and then you get other TV angles, and then come to find out that he did, in fact, drop that ball. We'll get to the whole thing with Brock Purdy, but initially on that drive, did you think Kyle Shanahan messed up not challenging that play right there?
Sure. Sure. I mean, yeah, but that's easy to say in hindsight. At the time, I wasn't thinking anything of it. Like at the time, everything was happening so quick. Like 20 seconds has to go by. Just like that's the in between the time where he made the catch and they got the next snap off. It was 20 seconds worth of time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very smart on them. I'd say it was more on the refs, especially seeing after what Kevin Seifert had to say, where the coach, sure, the coach has to be the one or can challenge it, but the refs can also just straight replay it if they deem it reviewable. So I kind of more blame the refs if I'm going to point blame at anybody in regards to that play. And for me, I was watching that. I was watching it and I was like, damn, that's a hell of a catch. And I thought, for a second, maybe he didn't, but there was also a reason why they were hurrying up, and it made sense. That's what players, I mean, I just listened to that Kelsey podcast, at least the first 20 minutes of it, and they said, like, look, that's what teams practice. Every team has that sort of play instilled where it's like, if you're unsure about whether you made the play, whether it was a catch or whatever, like, hurry up. And that's exactly what Devontae Smith did. So I give the Eagles credit. I do think the refs could have reviewed that, but, they had to move on.
Well, the refs cannot look at it because it's not a turnover and it's not a scoring play. So that is on Kyle in that moment to do that.
Well, let me look at that. Let me look at this tweet then from Seifert, because he said it. He put it a lot more.
George Seifert? Which Seifert are we talking about here?
Kevin.
Who?
Kevin Seifert, ESPN. I have to go. I have to go really far back.
Well, let me just say this.
Yeah.
It's also it's a total hindsight thing, 100%. Because in the moment, I didn't see it being a drop. It looked like a catch to me. My little brother actually was watching the game with me, and he right away said that's a drop. And I was like, I don't see what you're talking about. And then after a couple replays, you finally saw it. So it wasn't clear cut initially, and I'm sure whoever was in the booth for Kyle to look at it didn't see that as well. But there is such thing as going with people's body languages. So you saw that Devontae Smith wanted to rush to the line. Not 100% clear that means that he thought he dropped it. However, if you look at the other game in the Chiefs and Bengals, that opening drive, it looks like Kadarius Toney comes down with a touchdown, and it turns out that he dropped that pass as well. But for some reason, Andy Reid decided to challenge. But if you base it on Kadarius Toney's body language, it looks like he knew that he dropped that ball. So it's hard to play body language, whatever. But it's a total hindsight thing. I'm sure Kyle would have loved to just call a timeout in that situation and regroup and see if they could review it. But then you worry about burning 2 timeouts that quickly because you call the timeout and then you want to challenge. So it was a clusterfuck, but it did kind of lead to the momentum of the Eagles because then they get first and goal. And we'll talk about, were the Niners robbed and everything. I think at the end of the day, I know that they didn't have a lot of offense, and obviously it was taken away from them with 2 quarterbacks going down. But you and I were texting. I think the key to the game was the fact that the Niners were fooled a little bit by the style of the Eagles running game, where basically in the first half, Jalen Hurts was a decoy in the running game, and Fred Warner and everybody was following him, and in the end, he was handing off to Miles Sanders. Yes, the Eagles did benefit from the injuries, but I do think that the better team did win on Sunday.
Yeah, I think that, like, my main point was, all right, there were like 4 reasons you can look at as to why the Niners lost, like key reasons. Number 1, Brock Purdy injury, obviously. Number 2, were the penalties. I mean, those were huge on that one drive where they managed to score a touchdown off the 3 defensive penalties. I actually changed my mind on the first one on Jimmy Ward. That's whatever that was. That wasn't a penalty. It was all within the contact was within 5 yards. So I changed my mind on that one. But I totally and the one on Charvarius Ward was terrible. But the one on T.Y. McGill, I totally understand because he's putting his hand up the dude's face mask. Like, that's a penalty.
But for the most part, do you think that the penalties were warranted?
No, but here's the thing. Well, the 2 out of the 3 weren't. No, but
okay. But on that drive, yes. Okay, but in the grand scheme of things,
no, grand scheme for sure. A lot of them were. Like Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga.
Yeah, how about Greenlaw just punching, like, at the end of the game, just getting frustrated, just punching the shit out of the ball?
Yeah, like all of those were. But you look at that drive, then the challenge rule, and then on that 4th and 3. But like, no matter what else happened in the game, like, you could take away those 11 penalties, maybe cut that number down to like 4 or 5. I don't know. And then you could take away the fact that the challenge, if he did challenge it, they would have turned the ball over, whatever. But really, without their quarterback, like, there was no way that the Niners were going to win that game. As soon as Brock Purdy went down, there's no chance. Like, the defense may be able to give you a shot, but the offense, they're not going to keep on the field for extended plays, giving the defense rest. That's partially what makes the Niners defense so good, is that, like, they'll get a stop and they'll be on the field for like a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, and then the offense comes in and goes on a 18 play, 75-yard drive that may not always end in a touchdown, but it gives them like 7 or 8 minutes to even rest. So, like, I think that has something to do with it as well. I think the fact that Purdy went down, there was no chance the Niners were going to be in that game. And if Purdy were to stay healthy, the way that the defensive line was playing and the Eagles' offensive line, the fact that they were winning that game solely in the trenches, like, I don't know, we could play the hypothetical game all day long, but I mean, if you win the game in the trenches, you're probably going to win the game overall, or at least you're going to have the better opportunity. Like, that's what's happened in the NFC Championship with the Rams. The defensive line just started taking over, especially after that drop play by Jaquasi Tart. I've run on and rambled, but point being, when Purdy went down, there was no way the Niners were winning that game. That's it.
I understand that, but also, and I know everybody's freaking out over Kyle having Tyler Kroft blocked Hassan Reddick, but if he gets that play blocked, no one's freaking out. If Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt, or if he dumps the ball down, everybody, it is what it is. And I'm tired of everybody questioning Kyle's play calling to the point where he's getting guys hurt or whatever. Like, it happened today with Jason Cole saying, like, you have to look in the mirror and look at the play calling that you have. By the way, Stephen Langford, reporter for KCBS, on the scene today.
Yeah, he was right behind me, like dead on behind me when he was asking that question.
Yeah, and I love Kyle's response because no one else knows what the hell's going on.
Also, the reaction to that, I looked on social media afterward. Like, I don't know, people really criticize him like heavily just because Shanahan, like, because they say he comes off as arrogant or he comes off as like, I saw someone even saying like narcissistic, and also saying that it was like,
and Bill Belichick doesn't.
And yeah, exactly. And it was also like, people were saying it was like, oh, this is contentious. I could tell you right now, when I was sitting right there, it didn't feel like there was much contention. I didn't really feel it. To be honest, I sat there and I agreed mostly with what he said. It's like, it's not his fault that Josh Johnson had his head hit the turf. That sucks that it happened.
Yeah.
The play with Tyler Kroft, like, if we're going to blame it, don't you think that if we're just fans and we're watching on TV, and it's simple that we say, how can you use a backup tight end and block a defensive end? Do you think that coaches are just willingly doing that? And they're just saying, you know what? This is, we're on the specific play, we're going to have him do this. No, Kyle's a sequential play caller. Like, and the whole point is and as Joe Thomas pointed out, which I thought was awesome, which was like, this is what happens when you run a type of offense like Shanahan does with the play action. You essentially have to use a backup tight end every now and then, and it's up to them to get the job done. It stunk to be in that situation, but I don't know. It's just Shanahan running his offense, and we focus on that one play.
Yeah, I think everyone needs to chill out on Kyle. Regardless of what happened in the NFC Championship game, I do believe it was a successful season for the 49ers. What they had to deal with all the quarterbacks going down, for Kyle to get him to that point is remarkable, honestly. To go down to their third string, Mr. Irrelevant rookie, to take them to the playoffs and get him in that game, I think it's a success. As far as the game itself, I hear everyone being frustrated with the outcome and what happened with the quarterbacks, with both Brock Purdy going out, and we'll talk about the UCL injury, and Josh Johnson getting his bell rung with a concussion, and them not being able to throw a pass in the fourth quarter. But I do believe that the Eagles still would have won that game. I do. And I know that it was like, well, how could you say that? I think the only time they scored was on what was it short field after. No, it wasn't on the. It wasn't on. Well, there's a lot of crazy things with this game. It wasn't on the punt that was questioning whether or not it hit the wire of the Fox cam. Which, by the way, I was texting you this. Why did they get a redo? I've never heard of that before. When Derek Carr's pass went and hit the spider cam against the Chiefs, did Derek Carr get a redo? No.
No,
So why would they look to get a redo in that moment?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is very bad officiating across the board, I would say. Mostly in the AFC Championship game. I don't know what the fuck was going on with that 3rd and 9 replay. Like, no, we'll talk about that a little later. But I do believe that it was a short sample size of what Brock Purdy was facing with the Eagles. But that's the first time he fumbled a pass this season. I don't think he was.
Just mention the 3rd and 9 play now from the AFC Championship. We don't have to talk about that later. Mention it now since it's relevant to the conversation. What are you talking about?
The game where I forget what point in the game it was, but where they had to replay the 3rd down, where it was 3rd and 9, and they were going to force the Bengals to punt. No,
Right.
it was going to be the Chiefs to punt, and no referee, Ron Torber, or anybody came out to blow the whistle dead. It was ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. That's the thing about both these games is like the officiating was questionable, but I also kind of love the human element of it. Like there's human error involved with sports. Nothing is going to be perfect. That's kind of what I love. And, hypotheticals aside, whatever, terrible, terrible outcome for the Niners, for the Niner fans, but just for football fans in general. Like, neither of these games to me were compelling, like at all.
Well, the AFC Championship game was.
It was kind of compelling. I don't know. The first
It was a
half was
game-winning
whatever.
kick at the end.
Yeah, but so what if there's a game-winning kick throughout? It was just like it was way more compelling than the NFC Championship. I don't know. I just was expecting a little more fireworks, I guess. And you're not getting Patrick Mahomes at full health like that after that one throw that he made where he's like rolling where he steps back and he really has to put pressure on that ankle in order to actually get any power behind the throw. After that, he wasn't the same. But for the NFC Championship, forget about just the outcome. In general, I'm pissed that we didn't get a good game, man. I was so excited. You and I were talking before it. Like we were so stoked for that game. Like just the idea of both these teams all around the best in the NFC. We've been waiting for them to both square off because it's really felt like it was destined to be that way since like the beginning of December. And then we get that where Purdy goes out and you just get a second half that's nothing but, like you mentioned, it's like watching Georgia Tech where it's just nonstop running the football, people telling Shanahan to run a wildcat, do something. What do you expect him to do? He can't do anything in that situation. Both his quarterbacks went down with 12 and a half minutes remaining in the second half. I don't know. I thought it was just a disappointing kind of championship weekend, and I'm hoping that the Super Bowl makes up for it.
So, do you feel that the Eagles deserve to be in the Super Bowl, though?
Yeah. Either the Niners or the Eagles, both of them deserve to be in the Super Bowl. I don't believe that Jalen Hurts is overrated, like people are saying. I think he definitely missed a couple of throws that he normally would make. Maybe that shoulder's still bothering him.
I think so.
But overall, like that Eagles team is damn good, and they're a Super Bowl caliber roster. And that offensive line, for the first time, you haven't seen it that much this season, but that defensive line for the Niners got dominated by an offensive line in the Eagles, which is so damn good.
And that's what I'm saying is that in the end, I understand that the Niners lost both of their starting quarterbacks. And I do believe that it wasn't as compelling as what we thought it was going to be with everybody at full strength. But that's just part of playoff football sometimes where Hassan Reddick made the play. And it's unfortunate that it resulted in Brock Purdy being gone from the game. But he made the play that was the difference. And I do believe there were times where the Eagles offensive line did dominate the 49ers defensive line. But at that point, were they really going as hard as they were just because of the outcome of the game? It's tough to say. And yes, we do feel a little weird about it in the end. But I do believe the better team won. And I would, it's going to be interesting to see next season because the Eagles and Niners will play again.
Right.
what the outcome will be. Will it be Brock Purdy? Will it be Trey Lance? It's frustrating. I understand, but I do believe the Eagles were the better team. It's it just sucks that it happened that way, and I felt bad for Josh Johnson because he was put in that situation. He just got on the team a few weeks ago. Once Jimmy Garoppolo was out and Brock Purdy was starting, he was put in an unfortunate situation. He doesn't know the plays as well as everybody else.
Yeah.
It's just tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
So
And also as we do like the kind of thing, because I mean, there's just so much, like we spent so much time on social media. Sometimes it's just like all we have is like reacting to what we actually see like through social media. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now. But I saw something like, man, if watching Josh Johnson doesn't give you appreciation for what Garoppolo or Purdy are doing through this Shanahan system, um, they deserve a lot of props for being able to run that almost flawlessly. Like that's what it seemed like Purdy was doing whenever things were working that way. And you know what? Garoppolo was that way too. He just wasn't able to make the extra plays like Purdy was and extend plays, whatever. But he ran the system very well. Josh Johnson, I don't think people realize like Josh Johnson, a 36-year-old who's been on 15 teams or whatever, is the Octavio Dotel or the Ish Smith, whichever one you want to use, of football. Octavio Dotel in baseball and Ish Smith in basketball.
I hear you.
But like, I mean, Josh Johnson isn't even like in the conversation among backup quarterbacks. This dude was the fourth stringer. So I'm not going to sit there and be like, man, looking at that gives you appreciation for what Jimmy and Brock doing, or we totally underrate Jimmy with the way that he ran the offense. Like, no, it's there's no comparison. You're comparing apples to oranges there. There's no comparison.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, I will say as far as the Eagles, there is something going on still with Jalen Hurts and his shoulder. I don't think he's at full strength. He's missed a couple of throws. He had AJ Brown
That's
open
the one.
against.
That's the one to me.
Yeah,
that's the one.
So maybe this bye week will do him some good. Yeah, I mean the Eagles benefited from the Niners and their injuries, but I still think that the Eagles are probably the better team at the end of the day. It's tough to say, I know, but I don't know. And a lot of people are saying like the Eagles had the easiest path to a Super Bowl ever. They kicked the crap out of the Giants. They, dominated against the Niners when they didn't have two quarterbacks. I think it'll be a true test against the Chiefs, and we have a lot of time to talk about the Super Bowl and everything, but yeah, I mean it's tough to say when the leading receiver for the Eagles is Devontae Smith with 2 catches for 36 yards, but they did it on the ground. The defense played well. I understand that it was against, no quarterbacks, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like Niner fans should feel like they were robbed of anything. I feel like it was just what happened. It's the circumstances, and it's unfortunate. And we'll see what happens now with Brock Purdy in the long term. Kyle and John spoke today. We'll get to that in a little bit here, but I think the future is bright. I really do. And I think that, they're going to lose some guys. Jimmy Ward's comments after the game were a little interesting. He felt the same way, that he didn't do anything in the pass interference. And he thought that he found out that the drop on fourth down, he didn't know that it was incomplete. So once he found that out, he was like, oh, I had a pretty good game. And it's like, should you really act that way after a loss? It's the most brutal loss of the season, and I felt Jimmy Ward was kind of focusing on him and his free agency more than the outcome of the game with his teammates.
Yeah, but we also don't know what's going on behind the scenes with him, and maybe he doesn't like the way that things have been handled.
Doesn't sound like he does.
No, and whatever. And this guy's been like one of the players who's kind of kept that culture of the 49ers in the locker room, that loose sort of style of football where, and I don't know, man, whatever with Jimmy Ward, I think he's played great. Those were weird, but as far as the future for this team, the future is bright. But the only thing that I think, something, I don't even know if this is fair to say, but like going into next season, I'm very curious. It's not so much the quarterback's health that I'm wondering about. Purdy is eventually coming back. I think Tommy John is a real possibility, but at the same time, like it seems like they're pretty steadfast on the fact that it's going to be a 6-month recovery. he'll be back in time for OTAs, whatever, and it's probably going to be a competition between him and Trey Lance. Um, but I'm sitting here going, man, the only thing I'd be worried about is the health of our running backs. Like the reason that ESPN gave McCaffrey a C minus grade, like you're not, no one in their right mind is giving the trade for the Niners like a C minus if you're solely basing it on like skill and scheme fit and all those different things. McCaffrey clearly fit with the team. The reason they give him a C minus is because he hadn't stayed healthy. And, it seemed like the Niners struck gold here with McCaffrey. And the only thing I'd be worried about is his health going into next season. It's not even so much the quarterbacks. It's just like whether he could stay healthy for a full 16, 17 games when he's proven like this dude is crucial to that offense. Like he makes it go. So, and that run that he had, man, God, that touchdown run was sick.
Yeah.
So, like, I'd say that'd be it's not even the quarterback's injuries that I'm like concerned with. It's more just whether McCaffrey will stay healthy for a full slate of a season.
Well, I do think that the difference in the end was the fact that they have a lot of great talent on this team, but they do need a quarterback. And they have two young ones. As far as, what happened today with the press conference, and you were there, Stephen, Kyle and John came out and said that, we'll see about Brock Purdy. They're leaning in the direction that the UCL injury is just a 6-month recovery and not so much the Tommy John, where he'll miss the whole entire season. It sounds like that's the case, but we'll see. He's getting second opinions. And then, we'll talk about Tom Brady and everything today, but everyone, once that happened, was like, well, you got to go out and get Tom Brady. Tom Brady's the guy for the Niners. And now he's not going to come to the Niners. So they asked, Kyle and John today, are you guys looking at veteran quarterbacks? They were like, we don't need one right now. We are very comfortable and content with the two guys we have in our roster. Trey Lance will be ready by OTAs, and, it sounds like Brock's going to be ready for training camp. And then the best thing said all day was, I know Grant Cohn asked, who's going to be the starter? And he was like, I'm not even thinking about that. We'll find out in training camp. That's what the message is going to be all offseason. We don't know. We don't know who the starter is. Obviously, they traded all the capital for Trey Lance, and Brock Purdy performed. But at the end of the day, I think they're just going to go in with the two young guys and battle out on training camp, and that's what everybody's going to have to deal with this whole offseason. Everyone's going to ask it. Every radio show, it is what it is at this point. We are not going to know probably until week 1 of the 2023 season.
Yeah, all they're going to do is sign probably a third-string quarterback, someone to keep it. Because I actually think the NFL is going to act on this. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the rule where they designate 3 quarterbacks on the roster and don't count that third quarterback
as they should
as a roster spot. I think they really are going to, like the NFL, we've seen it. They react really quickly to these things. So I think that seeing the disadvantage that the Niners were at in that game, yeah, I think for sure they're gonna change that rule. But no, you're right. That's what it's gonna be. That's all it's gonna be next season. I think they're making the right move. They don't need to.
I do too.
They don't need to break the bank on like on a quarterback right now. I'm seeing a bunch of hypotheticals when it comes to these guys, but I don't see that happening. So yeah, they're just gonna roll with these two.
Yeah, and we got confirmation that Jimmy Garoppolo will. Again, we heard this last season because he said goodbye to everybody at the media session a year ago. But straight up asked, is Jimmy Garoppolo in any scenario going to be in your plans? And Kyle said, no, don't see it happening. So they're going to move on, as they should, with the two young guys, and Jimmy will find a new team. Maybe it's the Raiders. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. Hopefully not. Real quick on the AFC Championship game. You weren't into this game at all, Steven?
I was into it, but I don't know. Maybe I was just tired. I was just kind of like,
You probably were tired.
Yeah, I don't know. I was expecting more fireworks or something. I don't know what it was, but I'm just seeing Mahomes and the way that he was playing. Like, I don't know. I wasn't too compelled with it. Like, and it did come down to all those plays in the last second, but yeah, overall, the totality of the game, I don't know. I thought I'd be more locked in, but I really wasn't locked in until they opened up the second half with a touchdown, toward the end of the first half with a touchdown, where the Chiefs started to make things interesting. So, yeah, that's just how I felt about it.
Well, there were exciting plays, I thought, obviously with Patrick Mahomes on the 4th and 1 throwing a touchdown pass, and the Bengals going forward on 4th and 5, I think it was, with a deep shot to Jamar Chase that led to the touchdown. Yeah, there were lulls probably, and it's probably just because we got so much football and that was the second slate of the games. But it was an enjoyable game. I will say that I think that between the two games, this one was officiated more poorly. I already talked about the 3rd and 9 play. That was a redo. I think that's ridiculous. You should never have that situation in an NFL playoff game. I don't care if your whistle's not working. You need to stop that play from happening because it just looks ridiculous. Ron Torbert and his whole crew, I thought, were terrible. And then you got the Joseph Asai play in the end, and it's unfortunate, but that is a penalty. Although you could look at earlier in the game, I think Samaji P. Ryan was pushed out towards the goal line, and nothing was called there. But that is a call that Patrick Mahomes is going to get. He's the face of the NFL. I understand that people think that the NFL is rigged after this, especially Arian Foster. I don't know what the hell that's about. I think he's just being tongue in cheek there. But yeah, as far as Joseph Asai pushing up Patrick Mahomes, you got to make that call. It's a little you go either way, but I as soon as that play happened, I was like, okay, well they're going to get a field goal range. They're going to win this game now.
Yeah.
And I thought CBS kind of stayed on him crying a little bit too long. And I liked the reaction with BJ Hill having his back in the locker room and everything. I guess Jermaine Pratt was pretty upset with him. But I think the Chiefs were the better team. They benefited from Patrick Mahomes playing a lot better than he did a week ago on the ankle. Looked a lot better and healed a little bit over the week. And it was impressive the fact that he lost Juju Smith-Schuster and Kadarius Toney and Hardman, and still managed to get it done with. I couldn't even tell you the names of the guys. Sky Moore with the great punt return.
Sky Moore, big one.
Yeah. And the Chiefs' defense I think was the key. Where the Bills failed against the Bengals and their backup offensive line, the Chiefs thrived, especially from Chris Jones getting a killer sack.
That's where I was gonna. That's what I was gonna bring up. Is like what we discussed last week was, if the Bengals end up making it to the Super Bowl, whoever faces them in the NFC is probably going to win that game because at some point you can only last so long with your backup lineman in, and you can tell like right out the get-go, like right from the jump. And he was sacked a total of 5 times in that game. Like you could tell that it was going to be a long night, at least for the Bengals offensive line, and they're pretty lucky. I think that Mahomes was hurt because I think that game could have been a lot worse had Mahomes been fully healthy, I think.
Yeah, and I also think that losing his guys kind of had their offense go a little stagnant in the second half. I apologize if I'm a little distracted. The Warriors and Timberwolves are in overtime right now, and it's not looking good.
Yeah, what do you think I keep looking down at? I'm got the little phone here with the the thing, and it's like,
down by 3 with a minute and 43 left in overtime. So
I gave up an 11-point lead in the fourth quarter. It's just like this team in the fourth, man.
I know, and they're probably going to rest everybody tomorrow against the Nuggets.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's whatever. The Western Conference is full of teams hovering around 500. It's like it seems like it seems like if you get 3 games over 500 by the end of the year, you're going to be the 6th seed. So that's fine. Anyway, continuing on.
Yeah. So I thought the Chiefs Bengals was a fun, it was a fun game. And it's it's fun to have these new rivalries between these young quarterbacks. Joe Burrow playing well, Patrick Mahomes playing well. We'll see if Josh Allen gets in the mix, Justin Herbert. But it was a fun rivalry, and I like the fact that they, I can't stand. Well, it was good that they came back against them from a year ago, from them losing in overtime to the Bengals after they had the 21-3 lead. So they got revenge in that factor. But I can't stand, like I said in the opening of the podcast, I can't stand politicians doing their little smack talk between the two cities and stuff. They sound like idiots. So the mayor of Cincinnati, and then the next day the senator in Missouri going after him. I don't like politicians smack talk when it comes to sports because they just sound like real jabronis and misinformed about sports.
They're just trying to pump up their city.
Yeah, but they sound like idiots.
That's fine.
Not a fan. Anyway, so we get 2 weeks of calling it the Andy Reid Bowl and the Kelsey Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you think is more intriguing?
The Andy Reid Bowl, for sure.
That's what I think. I mean, like Travis and Jason, they won't play against each other. It's just it's kind of like. It's not as compelling as Jim Harbaugh going up against John Harbaugh in the Super Bowl because they were coaching against each other. Travis Kelsey and Jason play offense, so they're not going to go up against each other. The compelling thing is Andy Reid facing his former team. The Eagles are 2-point favorites at the moment. I think the Eagles are the better team, but I don't know if they've really showed it yet, despite the fact that they've had blown out losses. A.J. Brown hasn't really had a great performance in the playoffs so far, but he didn't need to. So we got a couple weeks to talk about it, but I think it's going to be an interesting Super Bowl.
I think it's going to be fantastic, and I don't know. Everyone's kind of writing off the Eagles already. I'm not. I'm not. Those offensive and defensive lines, I think, are gonna.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be an absolute battle. I don't think the Chiefs are just gonna run away with it just based on, you know, the easier path BS. It's like it's crazy that I'm seeing that. You know, you beat the team. You work with the cards that you're dealt, right? You work with the hand that you're dealt. And it just so happens that the Eagles were dealt a hand with the Giants, absolutely destroyed them, made them look like a JV team. And then, the Niners, unfortunately, they had an injury. And I understand that maybe they're not as battle tested. The Eagles aren't. But 2 weeks from now, I think all that's going to go out the window. It's just, hey, we're going to focus on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't think that really matters. And who's really discounting the Eagles at this point?
There are a lot of people, man.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say by far, I think they have the better talent. Now, I think that the Chiefs have the better quarterback and the better coach. But I think there's way more talent on the Eagles than the Chiefs right now.
I do too. I
Yeah.
do too. And I think Hurts's shoulder will be a little better than Mahomes' ankle. I think that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what both of them,
Both things will be interesting to monitor as we get closer to the Super Bowl on February 12th.
Yes.
But today we got some breaking news as the morning started, and Raiders were banking on Tom Brady to replace Derek Carr, and a lot of Niner fans were hoping on maybe the Niners going after Tom Brady. It's always been a rumor for the longest time. He's linked to them, and Bay Area kid wants to come home, and that's not going to happen for either team because Tom Brady finally announces his retirement once again a year ago from when he did it last year. And then, of course, the day before free agency started, he announced he's coming back. I don't think that's happening this time. I think it's for good, as he said. And we did all the Tom Brady, looking back on his career last year. So I don't think we need to go into that again. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Super Bowl and him because Fox is doing the Super Bowl, and that is his new team. So if I was Greg Olson, I would go all out and have one hell of a Super Bowl and try to convince people I deserve to stay in the booth, whether it's with Tom or without him. And I think they'll put Tom Brady on the broadcast in some aspect, maybe the pregame show or whatnot. But yeah,
I think Olsen just needs to keep doing what he's doing.
I agree.
And I personally, I don't even know if Tom Brady's going to be that good on a broadcast.
I don't know either.
I think it's going to take him a few years to even like Tony Romo right away showed his personality and then was told to dial it back. Greg Olsen, he does a really great job of just breaking the game down overall. He doesn't try to do too much. But with Brady, I feel like he'll be kind of hesitant to say what he's truly feeling because, well, the way that he's been speaking to the public for the most part, he just, he kind of hides like a lot of what he's actually feeling. So I think it's going to be really hard for him to bring out like all of truly what his thoughts are based on just how he's been handling everything for his whole career.
Yeah, but I think that not every broadcaster tells you how it's supposed to. Like, it's not sports talk radio. It doesn't need to be like, I think this guy sucks or whatever.
No, I'm not saying that, but just like holding back.
I don't think he'll hold back. I think he'll just call the game how he sees it. If he sees a quarterback's not playing well, he'll say that. I think if he coach makes the wrong plays, he'll say that. I don't think there's anything wrong. I think Tony Romo's not afraid to do that. Now, I will say that Tony was all over the place in the AFC Championship game. Like,
I think the noise is getting to him.
Well, I just think that also, like, we've been talking about it, but whoever told him to stop predicting plays and start doing comedy, like, made just a huge mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just all over the place.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
When he was like, hey, coming up after the game, Fire Country. Oh, Jim, it might be Fire Country for one of these two teams if they don't win. Oh.
Yeah, not good.
And Warriors lose. God damn.
Yep.
So yeah, Tom Brady retires, and now what does that mean for the Raiders? Because that's the rumor we heard all I guess, to this point where Derek Carr is benched and they want to upgrade at the position, and things are going to be interesting. I could think this weekend whether or not we see Derek Carr get traded or not, but he's going to play one final game at the Pro Bowl skills competition this Sunday. Just I guess, a nice send off for Derek Carr, even though he's not a Pro Bowl player and neither is Snoop Huntley.
Right.
But when you go down to your fourth or fifth alternates, this is what you get. So I saw Derek say something like he got his invitation lost in the mail or something. So he still holds a little bit of hurt feelings. But I'm glad he'll be there just to be in the stadium for one last time and say goodbye. But the Tom Brady news has me a little worried. Not because I'm cool with the fact that Tom Brady's retiring and whatnot. Had a great career, good send off. It would have been weird to see him in a Raider uniform, but that's, I think, what the Raiders were banking on in the offseason. So now, what is the upgrade? What is the upgrade over Derek Carr? Because it's too late now to renege on this. It is what it is. Derek
There's
Carr,
no immediate upgrade. Like, that's the thing with Carr. There's no immediate upgrade now. There's an upgrade for the future, but no immediate upgrade as of now.
So what are the choices? They could go with to-be free agent Jimmy Garoppolo, which sounds terrible to me because that's not an upgraded, in my opinion. I don't think he could get the ball deep to Devontae Adams or Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think they're going to trade all that capital to get him or draft somebody. And at that point, I think you're going through a whole new rebuild because, yeah, like I'm still worried about the whole thing with Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, if they're really serious about getting value for those guys, because then we're going through the whole Gruden thing again. And I hope
Yeah.
that doesn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Jimmy is probably the number one guy. I think they need to go all out and get a rookie quarterback. And I disagree that it's a total rebuild. I disagree with that. But I think that,
are you competing though? Like, let's just put it on the table right now. You got two playoff teams, both that have the best quarterbacks in the division.
Mhm.
Russell Wilson is going to maybe improve with Sean Payton now as his head coach, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
I'm good with talking about that. I don't want to talk about Peyton and the Broncos and Russell Wilson.
Well, we're going to.
Okay.
But at that point, if you're drafting a rookie quarterback with all the talent around, I don't know what's going on and with the team at that point. Then
Yeah. No, it's I mean, at this point now, without Brady, like, I'm good with them just keeping Stidham and just going with him. Just
serious.
Yeah. What other options do they have? They don't really have many.
Not Jimmy. Like, sorry, like, nice guy and everything, but if it comes to that point, that's where I'm really out. Because I dealt with that guy with the Niners and everything for so long. I can't deal with Jimmy Garoppolo on the Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. They could keep Carr around.
How?
Just by keeping him on the team. They have him under contract and just picking up his option. It's up to them after all.
And it's going to be contentious after that?
Carr's not going to be contentious. He'll be fine with whichever team that he's going to go to.
I think it's too late.
I don't know if it is. I mean, like, I don't know what their relationship is. I don't know if like when Max Crosby was on this podcast, Bussin' with the Boys, he basically said like that Carr just would show up early. Excuse me. Good Lord. Oh boy.
You all right?
I'm okay. Getting choked up.
Yeah, memories of Derek Carr.
No, him and Crosby would be the ones waking up early in the morning, earlier than everybody else. And then one day, Carr did not show up to the kitchen, and he kind of knew what was happening. And then essentially, Carr just said, "Hey, man, I'm going to take a couple of weeks. There's no," he's like, nothing against you guys or anything like that, but he's just like, I need some time to myself. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a irreparable sort of relationship if they decide to bring him back. But now that Brady's gone, there's really not many other options. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is out there, but that's I think there's also a chance that Adams like got out of Green Bay because Aaron Rodgers was turning into this Mr. I'm going to call out the woke crowd in my spare time guy. So, yeah, I just think I don't know, man. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers going to be at Pebble Beach.
Okay, I figured he would be. I don't think it's anything to do with Rodgers' personality. I think it's the fact that he just got tired of whether or not knowing he was going to be there.
Right.
And Devontae wanted to go play with Derek Carr, but now he got paid, and now he's in a good situation with the Raiders. But we'll see who his quarterback is. I I don't think they're gonna go. They're gonna go after Aaron Rodgers. I just think it's gonna cost them too much to do that. It'll cost you at least a first round pick, and I think the Raiders needed to use that first round pick on something on the defense, or maybe even a quarterback at this point. Um, Jimmy Garoppolo, look, nice guy, but he cannot throw deep to Devontae Adams. It'll be a disaster, and he may be able to run McDaniel's offense, but that's not a good fit to me.
Mm.
And yeah, I just I couldn't deal with it, to be completely honest. So I'm out on that.
You don't have to deal with it. The Raiders aren't even in the Bay Area anymore, so you're good.
Exactly. So at that point, I would be completely out. I would. I'll be completely honest.
That's it. Door shut. Gone.
Door shut. Jimmy's a nice guy, but just the hype around him with the Niners and everything in the Bay Area for so long, and everyone, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo. I couldn't deal with it with the Raiders.
Well, there's a very real chance they're turning into the Niners in 2021, where you bring in a rookie quarterback, trade one to get him. You got Jimmy Garoppolo here, and then it turns into a training camp of should Jimmy Garoppolo or this young quarterback start?
And that's what I don't want to. I mean, like, I won't deal with it, obviously, but like, that's just annoying. Like, if you're Jimmy also, and you hear that Kyle is not going to bring you, like, you're not on the cards for the offseason, wouldn't you want to go to a place that you're going to not worry about having, your job taken away after a couple seasons?
Yeah.
Like, if you're Jimmy Garoppolo and you trust Josh McDaniels, you got to be straight up with him and be like, are you going to use that draft pick on a quarterback? Because if that's the case, I'm not coming to you. I want to go to a place where I'm going to be the starter for the amount of time that I signed that contract. So I think that takes the Jets out of the equation because they're just going to find a placeholder until they feel comfortable with Zach Wilson, in my opinion. They're not going to close the door on him yet, but they want, like, Aaron Rodgers makes sense with the Jets. But they still want to, they don't want to completely waste the pick on Zach Wilson. I think that if Jimmy gets the assurances from Josh McDaniels that there's no competition, then yeah, Raiders could be a possibility. But I think that just would not work with Devontae Adams. And then there's the Houston Texans who lost out on Bryce Young being the number one pick, but they could trade up to get him and whatnot.
Yeah.
D'Amico Ryans is there now. Knows Jimmy Garoppolo. That could be an option there. So he does have options this offseason. But I just don't know if the Raiders are pulling a Colts where they just didn't really plan this very well after they got rid of their quarterback. Because last year we saw it with the Colts just being fed up with Carson Wentz after one season and then looking for all other options at quarterback, and then they've settled on Matt Ryan, which looked good initially until they realized that Matt Ryan cannot play anymore. So I hope that the Raiders are vetting all options and going to come up with an upgrade over Derek Carr. And you might be right, Steven, that it may not be an initial upgrade, which is just kind of frustrating. But at the end of the day, it is business, and they didn't want to get into that contract. It could make the whole team better, but the quarterback position could be suffering.
Yeah, maybe, but I think they would have done their due diligence on whether Brady was going to retire or not, and maybe having a backup plan afterwards. I don't know. Bringing back Carr is not. I don't think is off the table now. Like, I think it's very real. And Ernie's asking, can they renegotiate? I don't know.
Well, if you're Carr, why would you do that?
Because you're going to make $40 million a year.
No, but then that's the reason. You would not renegotiate to make less money.
Right.
You would just say, well, then
also, yeah, why would Carr, right, you're asking why would Carr want to renegotiate? Yeah, he wouldn't. He wouldn't.
Exactly.
The only reason he'd come back is because of the money.
And also, I gotta be completely honest, it would be a bad move for Derek because there's a perception out of him of just being like the all shucks guy and going with the flow of the team, and I want to die a Raider and everything. After everything that's gone down in the last couple weeks or the last month that he's been told to stay away from the team, and his brother has been calling out the Raider organization. To go back with his tail between his legs, I think would be a bad move for him.
Yeah, probably. But the Raiders might be. But you weren't that high on Tom Brady going to the Raiders anyway.
I wasn't, but you just got to sell me on something that looks better than Derek Carr, and I don't think there is anything at this point.
Well, Stidham looked better than Carr for a game.
A game, dude. You really want to tout Jarrett Stidham out there for 17 games?
Not for 17, but I'm willing to trot him out there for 10 and then work the young quarterback that they're going to eventually trade up to get, like a CJ Stroud, and then eventually make him the starter.
Ugh. Yeah, I don't know about that. And I just think with an AFC West that could become competitive, it already is. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are going to their third Super Bowl in 4 years. Justin Herbert just got a new offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore that could probably take Brandon Staley's job. And then, like I said, Sean Payton, who you don't want to talk about, just went to the Broncos. So you got to compete in that division. And this is why they got Josh McDaniels. This is why they got Devontae Adams. So it may take a slow rebuild. And what I mean by that is it's not going to be trading away all the key assets, but just making the quarterback a little comfortable once he gets there, whoever it's going to be, probably a rookie. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting offseason, and guys get made available that you never thought would be. So there could be a better option without us even knowing about it.
Right. And with the Peyton thing, all right, so explain to me why the Peyton thing would be a good move for the Broncos and why you can take them over the top.
So this was kind of surprising to me. Sean Payton is going to the Denver Broncos. He was traded to the Broncos for, what was the compensation? First round pick.
First rounder.
The Saints get, and I think a second round pick.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Saints get a pick back in return.
Right.
I'll look up the actual logistics of everything. Why is this a good move? Well, it's good for Russell Wilson, I guess, and it's good for the Broncos, but I think it's a terrible move for Sean Payton, to be completely honest. So it sounds as if that Sean Payton was the Broncos' third choice when it came to DeMeco Ryans, who, good for him, signed a 6-year deal with the Texans. I guess that means he won't get fired after one season. But then again, you never know. But I'm sure he got the insurances from Nick Caserio and everybody in the Texans organization. This is going to be a long process, and we're not going to can you after one season. If they do, then, fuck them for doing that, because I think DeMeco is going to make a great team in the Texans if they let him fulfill that time.
Right.
Better for him than the Broncos, because he would have had to win right away with the expectations of fixing Russell Wilson, and he's a defensive coach. The second choice was Jim Harbaugh, and I don't see him helping Russell Wilson in that scenario either. So they went with Sean Payton. I think it was their third choice just because of the compensation they would have to give up. But they probably got the best option of anybody.
Right.
I think it's a bad situation for Sean Payton just because, like I heard an interview with Peter Schrager on Chris Long's podcast, and he was talking about how he would watch the Fox game, the games of Fox while he was working there. And they would talk about how, why are the Denver Broncos not good on offense? I could fix that situation. Just look at everything. He was talking about that with Kyler Murray. He was talking about that with Justin Herbert. He thinks he can fix anybody. And I don't know if he's going to dig Russell Wilson or the whole thing. I have no idea. It just takes a lot to fix somebody than know what you already have. Like, he knows what he has in Russell Wilson, but at the same time, like, if he went to the Chargers, which I thought was the dream scenario, he wouldn't have to fix Justin Herbert. He just makes Justin Herbert an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
He's going to have to rejuvenate Russell Wilson's career, which he did the same thing with Drew Brees and everything, but I don't know. I think it's asking a lot. And he's got to compete with Patrick Mahomes in that same division. I thought it was kind of a desperate move out of the Denver Broncos, to be completely honest. Yeah. I thought Sean Payton could have stayed at Fox and not have to deal with any of this. But I guess he likes the challenge, and it'll be interesting to see if he tries to get the old Saints guys, like if Taysom Hill comes in the mix. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be more competitive, I believe, because Sean Payton's not going to go in there and be a bad coach. I think it's just whether or not he's going to get the best out of Russell Wilson.
And that's where I don't know if that exists anymore. I don't know if Russell Wilson has a best. That's my whole thing with this is you can hire a coach. Okay, that's fine. You can hire a new coach and think everything's going to go well. But it's kind of the situation with Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich. Like I know it's not head coach and quarterback, it's offensive coordinator and quarterback, but there's some discussion as to whether maybe Byron Leftwich was the scapegoat there, and Tom Brady. Maybe it's just Tom Brady being done as being Tom Brady, and it's maybe the same thing with the Broncos. It's like, was it a case of Nathaniel Hackett was terrible at the whole head coaching thing, calling timeouts and challenges and doing all the stuff you're supposed to do as a head coach. But as an offensive play caller, like, I don't know, was it truly his fault or was it Russell Wilson's fault? Because I also saw plenty of situations where Wilson missed a lot of open receivers, and their starting running back got hurt right at the beginning of the year, Javonte Williams. So that puts him at a disadvantage. He should have been able to overcome that. I'm not making excuses for Nathaniel Hackett, but I also think that a large chunk of it has to do with Russell Wilson just being done. And I don't know, man, maybe this is weird, but I saw the whole thing about how Russell Wilson gets too much disrespect. He works his ass off and does all these things. Maybe like he was doing a lot of overthinking, like I think that's what Carr does, like with the Raiders, with a bunch of new offensive coordinators. I think he overthinks the system right away. And I think that's what Russell Wilson was doing. And now when Sean Payton brings whatever he's bringing to Denver, like back when he was with the Seahawks, Wilson was just so free flowing. He was just playing backyard football a lot. Didn't have to think a whole ton. Obviously you got to point out the defenses and everything and point out the coverages, point out the Mike linebackers, whatever. But he was just given so much freedom to operate. And now that he can't really move as well as he used to, he's not given that much freedom to operate. And I don't know. I'm not sold on Russell Wilson, no matter what hire they would have made.
I agree with you. I think that I have immense respect for Sean Payton. I think that in recent years he's been kind of looked down upon because of the Kevin James movie. But and even his playoff record,
I forgot about that movie, dude.
Dude, the last 20 minutes, it's terrible. And also, like, you can't, like, Ben Stiller looks more like Sean Payton than Kevin James does.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, but I guess, like, everybody needs to make a movie about themselves. 80 for Brady coming out this weekend. I think that, and he had like the playoff record after he won the Super Bowl wasn't great. They had really just gut wrenching losses. They lost to the Seahawks with the Beastquake run. They lost to the Niners on the Vernon Davis play. They lost to the Vikings on the Minnesota Miracle. They lost to the Rams on the non-PI call by Nickel Roby-Coleman. And then they lost to the Vikings that won playoff overtime. And then they lost to Tom Brady for Drew Brees' last game. So they had some bad losses. But I think Sean Payton kept those teams competitive every year. It's going to be interesting to see like who he gets as a defensive coordinator. I don't think Vic Fangio is going to want to go to Denver after he was fired there as head coach. Vic Fangio, I guess, agreed to terms with the Dolphins, but now I guess that's not official yet. So he could go back to the Niners. Who knows? Actually, I think the Niners would be best to get Steve Wilkes to replace D'Amico Ryans. But I'm with you, Steven. I don't know if this was a smart move for Sean Payton. I just think that it's him trying to get back in the game, and he could have waited for a better job, honestly, that he wouldn't have to have as much pressure. I mean, he could do it. I can see him having success as well. But I also think it's a big ask to rejuvenate Russell Wilson's career because you're begging on, he'll become the same Russell that he was before, and you can do the same thing you did with Drew Brees back in the day. And I think it's just a big ask.
Yeah, 100%. And it might be at the point with Wilson where, maybe for Payton, it's just, all right, we'll try this out with Wilson. I don't know what they're going to do. Like, I don't know what their plan is, really. It seems like it all hinges on Wilson. Like, thinking about it in the past couple of years, this is what the Broncos have traded and what they've received. They've traded 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick. They've also traded Drew Lock, Noah Fant, and Shelby Harris. And they've received Russell Wilson, Sean Payton, a 4th-round pick, and a 3rd-round pick. That's it. And that 3rd-round pick's not till 2024. So I don't know what their plan is here. It all hinges on Russell Wilson. I just don't. I just don't trust them. They had a good they had a good enough offensive line last year. It's not like the offensive line was a problem. They have great, although the receivers did get hurt. They have great receivers, and the running back did get hurt, but they had a great defense. So I don't know. Maybe the coach can make a difference and revamp Russell Wilson, but I don't see it happening.
Well, even with the addition of Sean Payton, so now, like, I know it's a long off season, but as of right now, would you say that, it probably goes Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders, just because of the unknown with the Raiders?
Yeah, I'm not willing to go that. I'd say the Raiders are still third. Going into next year, depending on what happens with Josh Jacobs. I think paying Josh Jacobs has to be also one of their number one priorities too. If they keep him, then yeah, I'm probably keeping them at third. But if they don't keep Jacobs around, I think he's that. I think he's that good. I personally don't think that. I mean, the Raiders might be fourth then if Jacobs is not there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. There's a whole lot of offseason and a whole lot of fuckery to get to.
Woo!
Speaking of which, before we get out of here, so Derek Carr is going to play in the little Pro Bowl competition games this weekend, and I don't even know how that's going to go down. I guess with Team Peyton versus Team Eli, but it's not an actual football game. It's going to be like I don't even know, flag football and skills competition stuff. They're not playing an actual game, right? Like that goes into effect this season.
No, it's a flag football game. I told you, Carr's going to be
game.
perfect. If Carr doesn't have to get sacked, doesn't have to worry about that, has a clean pocket, this dude's going to go off.
And watch everybody be like, damn, Derek Carr looks good. Why are the Raiders trading him?
Dude, I remember, what was it, was it 2017? I think it was 2017 when he connected with Jarvis Landry for a deep ball when Landry was with the Dolphins. And I was like, damn, man, bring Landry to the Raiders. Him and Carr have this connection,
People always go to the Pro Bowl stuff. It's like, man, they were good at the Pro Bowl with no defense.
Can you imagine?
I know.
Can you imagine them in the regular season?
Here's where it could get awkward. So Derek Carr is going to play in this game representing the Raiders. Like a Raiders little emblem will be on his jersey or whatnot when he plays these Pro Bowl games. But let's say he gets traded Saturday night. That could be really awkward.
Just a little bit. That'd be
goes
so
into Allegiant Stadium, says goodbye to everybody. Got my new team already, by the way. I could see that happening, or it could happen next week. I mean, we're getting to the point now where if Derek Carr is going to get traded, we got a couple weeks away from it being the deadline, February 15th, right?
Yes, they got to make like a alternate, like Rob Lowe hat into a helmet. Like just an NFL, like just a dark helmet with the shield on it, with the NFL shield right there. That's what they need to do.
And that's the thing. What if he gets traded to an NFC team? He's playing for the AFC the next day.
Oh boy, yeah, that could get really weird. But you know what though? Like, who really cares? No one's watching this. Like, people are so out on this thing. Like, nobody was watching the Pro Bowl anyway. If anything, maybe watching it because Peyton and Eli are head coaches, and if they're mic'd up, that could turn into some comedy. And I think those two guys are just so damn funny. But yeah, man, So what do we got? Let's take a look here. Thursday. So tomorrow we got the Pro Bowl dodgeball competition.
Oh man.
And then we got.
That's fun, actually.
Yeah, that's okay.
But I'm not tuning in. I'll catch it.
What I want is a Max Crosby, or not Max Crosby. What I want is a 5-on-5 pickup basketball game between edge rushers. After seeing that video of Max Crosby go off on the court, seeing Myles Garrett do the same, I'm sure you could find, like, those guys are just freakish athletes. I want to see that. But anyway, continuing on. The lightning round. Is this a part of the dodgeball?
Is this all going down on Thursday?
Yeah. Yes. So we have the dodgeball tournament, and then the lightning round where we have the splash catch, where teammate pairings from each conference will toss water balloons back and forth from increasing distances. This is turning into a nice little Pro Bowl picnic. How about that?
Yeah, it's like a NFL wipeout.
I haven't read this yet, but I haven't continued to read this, but where's the rucksack competition? Where's the eggs and the spoons in the racing? Yeah. Okay, so here we go. What else we got? In part 2 of the lightning round.
Is there a derby?
There's no derby.
Damn.
It's called High Stakes. Advancing players will attempt to catch punts from a jugs machine to earn a place representing their conference in the final round. And then in the final round, it's called Thrill of the Spill, where remaining players from each conference will aim at targets attached to a bucket hanging above the head of an opposing conference's coach. Wow, so they have a dump tank at the end of it. That's fantastic. How about that? Even though it's not really being dunked, you're just dunking buckets on them. Wow. All right, we also got that's just a lightning round, Derek. I'm going to keep going. This is just for tomorrow.
Jesus, okay.
They also got the longest drive, where 4 players from each conference will compete in a challenge to drive a golf ball the furthest distance off a tee. I'm kind of into that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm into that. You don't have to, if you're a golf guy, Derek, which you're not, brah.
No, I mean, I'm just, okay.
I think it'd be funny. Each player will get 3 swings, and the player that drives the furthest within the boundaries on each side of the fairway will win 3 points. Then you have precision passing, which is, pretty self-explanatory.
Now that's what, like back in the day when they had the quarterback skills competition.
Yeah.
That shit was great.
Yeah. And then you have the best catch competition.
So I remember this from a year ago. This is like the slam dunk contest, basically.
Correct.
And didn't Stephon Diggs catch a ball and then land on a table like the Bills Mafia?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
I remember,
did. Yeah. So, the lightning round, whatever. Toss water balloons back and forth. Oh my God. I'm not into that. Yeah. Dodgeball competition is kind of funny because these guys get ultra competitive and some get really, really cocky. The longest drive is the one that I'm most looking forward to, though. All about the longest drive.
Watch these guys play golf.
Yeah.
It's basically like what's the big competition in the summertime between the quarterbacks? The match.
Oh, yes, the match.
Yeah.
Correct. Except that's actually real golf. This is just the longest drive. I'm into that.
Okay, all right. Ernie puts it perfectly here. It's not worth watching. Just wait for the highlights. That's how I see it.
What? There's more.
Oh, sorry.
There's more. That was on Thursday.
Oh.
Then
all that shit's going down Thursday?
That's on Thursday. Then on Sunday.
Wait, Thursday and Friday.
Sorry, I don't know. I'm reading here. Is this starting on Thursday? I guess it's. Oh, so wait, no, it says broadcasted for the first time on Thursday, and the competitions will continue on Sunday throughout the day.
Oh, okay.
Along with the flag football game.
So what's going on? So nothing Saturday?
Nothing Saturday by the looks of it. Nothing on Friday either. But then you got the best catch finale. So I guess that's going to be the finale on Sunday. And you got the Gridiron Gauntlet, a side-by-side relay race.
Okay.
The 4-part gauntlet.
So this is like
what the hell?
American Gladiator.
Yes.
Yeah.
It includes a series
and then the actual flag football game?
That's afterwards. Kick tic-tac-toe. Punter and long snapper compete in a giant tic-tac-toe competition. Kind of like that. Then move the chains. 4 teams will compete side by side in a weighted wall pool that will showcase their strength, speed, and ingenuity.
Basically, all this stuff sounds fun if you're competing in it, but to watch, like Ernie said, I'll catch the highlights.
It's like they're combining the world's strongest man, picnic events, a golf event.
Yeah.
And they're combining it all into one weekend. Wow, genius by the Pro Bowl.
It's an NFL family reunion if I've ever seen one.
Correct. I'm not going to watch any of it.
No, I'm not. You know what they should bring back is back in the day. You remember when Larry Allen used to bench press like 700 pounds, and it was the NFL's strongest man competition, and they have like the fastest man competition too. But Larry Allen would just like destroy a bench press.
They had our guy Lowe on there, man.
What's up?
They had our guy Lorenzo Neal on there.
Was Lowe on there?
Yeah. He was right behind Larry Allen. Well, not right behind him. No
one's touching Larry Allen.
Sheesh. Like the amount that he could do. Like Lowe held his own, but
I'm sure. But also Larry Allen could bench press 700 pounds like 25 times and eat a full cake.
And I'm not gonna lie, watching these things, like I understand that players, they kind of get into this state where, I don't know, like Dak Prescott said he didn't leave the house for 2 weeks after last year's 49er game. I know they get into that state, but then you watch them and they're all having fun and doing their thing, laughing, smiling. It's like, man, these guys, like,
It's a free trip to Vegas.
It's a trip to Vegas. The sting of the loss of what, because I think they understand that it's so rare to be a team who wins a Super Bowl. And when you do come that close, like, it sucks. But when the sting wears off, man, you have a summer of being a millionaire athlete.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's so cool, man.
But I do miss the Pro Bowl being the last game of the season. That's where I think the NFL screwed up. Everybody loves football. And I'm sure, there'll be some intrigue with whatever off-season football league there is. I kind of given up on all of it. I've tried. They all suck. But if you make the Pro Bowl the last game of the year in Honolulu, then everybody just grasps on for it for one last day just to enjoy it.
Yep.
But that's where I think everybody lost interest. It's like, oh, we got the Super Bowl next week. Why we watch this shit?
Right. Yeah, that doesn't make much sense, but
Mistake.
whatever. Man,
Mistake.
I wonder how they're gonna script this one, huh?
Okay, do you think Aaron Foster was just fucking around?
Of course.
Okay, thank God.
Of course he was. But I do have a question though. This led to a question.
Answer?
If you could rewrite the script for any athlete in sports history, whose script would you rewrite?
It's a tie between Bo Jackson and Andrew Luck.
Bo Jackson was the number one for me. Bo Jackson. Ultimately, Bo Jackson.
I would love to see how Bo Jackson's career finishes out because I don't know if he would have kept doing both sports. Like, everybody says, like, he was a good baseball player, better football player, but at some point he had to pick one or the other, I thought. Like, Deion eventually leaned in the direction more of football, but Bo probably, Bo could play both. But at some point, like, if he was going to get, like, a new contract, like Al Davis was into the idea of him playing both ideas, or both sports, until I would love to see when he was a free agent, and now it's like, no, then you gotta give up the baseball.
Right.
This is a full-time commitment now.
Yes.
Andrew Luck, I just feel bad because I always thought he was going to be great, and he was when he played, but then injuries just cut him short.
Yeah. I got one. Byron Buxton. That's whose script I'd rewrite.
Who?
Byron Buxton from the Twins.
You got to refresh my my memory of Bo.
Yeah, he's always hurt and he can't play through a full season. And if he did, then he'd be known as one of the best players in all of baseball. I'm just kind of thinking of a random name.
It's a good name.
Bo Jackson would be a good one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know you hate social media, but
do I know?
So yes, you do. But social media has been at its best in the responses to the Foster thing.
I will say that has been very fun.
Yes.
That's good comedy.
Right.
I don't like everything else with it.
Yeah, I know. But sometimes you have a little sliver, of greatness from social media. And that's what the responses have brought out. Some great response. It's awesome. It's been funny to watch.
Do you think Derek Carr gets traded this weekend?
I don't know. I think next week. I don't think this weekend.
During media week, you think he's getting traded?
Yeah.
I kind of got a feeling it won't be this weekend, but it may be start of next week.
Or he'll just be back with the team.
I don't think that's happening, and I don't think that they'll. I mean, are they going to wait till after the Super Bowl to get this done? Maybe, like the day of the Super Bowl, it's like, oh, we're celebrating the team that won, and then, Derek Carr got traded, by the way. By the way, I'm happy that Tom Brady decided to not do this news the Saturday before the conference championship games like he did a year ago. Although that was out of his choice. Jeff Darlington and Schefter got the scoop before he could announce it himself.
Right.
But it sounds like it's done. Tom Brady Sr. came on with old Greg and John Lund today and kind of said this was in the works for a while. And it sounded like the Raiders were never really on the table. It was going to be either go back to the Bucs or retire because he's a Florida guy now.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so we shall see. The fuckery is just starting. But if anything does happen this weekend, we'll do a show probably on Sunday because your boys got to do FanFest on Saturday.
Nice.
Yeah, nice.
Bet you're excited for that one.
Oh, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, I could tell.
And yeah, I mean, hey, fan fest for this fantastic Giants season that's coming up. And on that note, Steven, say what you always say.
Oh man, it's just our opinion, man. But FanFest is awesome for the fans.